Good evening and welcome to watching India Decides. I'm Vedant Agarwal. Our special focus on the show tonight. Well, we have data that reveals that in high-profile seats, including seats with big faces like Anna Balai, also Union Ministers, Nitin Gadkari, Kiran Rijiju, Gaurav Gogoi, all these seats which have star campaigners have witnessed comparatively lower polling this time. What is the reason behind it? Well, it's a complex analysis behind it. But the fact of the matter is that turnout across the board has been comparatively lower. And in these seats, which witnessed high voltage campaigns from union ministers, star campaigners of various parties, polling was relatively low. Now, this is based on data that we have taken from 2019 and, of course, this year in terms of phase 1. Now, if you can put that graphic back on air. Now, starting with Nilgiris, where A. Raja, of course, a star campaigner of the DMK, this time the polling was around 70% in phase 1. Compared to 74% last time around in 2019. Similarly, Thoothukudi, of course, a keenly contested battle. Kanimori, who has been the sitting MP from there, this time significantly lower polling in Thoothukudi. Similarly, Coimbatore, of course, Annamalai, who is of course BJP's star campaigner, the BJP's principal vote catcher in Tamil Nadu. This is a fresh candidate from Coimbatore. So marginal shift in polling there. And not just in Tamil Nadu. If you go across to seats like Muzaffarnagar in Uttar Pradesh, of course, Muzaffarnagar is a seat that has been discussed a great deal. We've been discussing and decoding the Muzaffarnagar dilemma as well. There, the Muzaffarnagar seat saw significantly lower polling in phase 1 this time with Sanjeev Balyan, of course, as a star campaigner. What is really the ramifications? What is the analysis behind it? Well, we have a power-packed panel. We have Amitabh Tiwari joining us in studio. Neerja Chaudhary will also be joining us on India Decides tonight, and our reporters spanned across India. I'll be joined by Ratnadeep, who is joining us from Guwahati. Sam Daniel is joining us from Chennai. Tanish Punjabi from Lucknow as well. I'll be going across to my reporters. But first, a quick word from you, Amitabh, on this data that is with us. How do you see this? Because as I said, there's a complex analysis behind it. It's not so simplistic. We cannot be reading into it very simplistically because there are multiple factors at play. But the fact that, these seats saw high voltage campaigns, carpet bomb campaigns, these terms that are thrown at us, despite that, why do you see, polling percentage relatively lower when compared to 2019?
Yeah, I think one reason perhaps is definitely the heat wave and the high temperatures. We've seen that even in Uttarakhand, which is a hilly station, there has been a lower turnout compared to 2019. The second is that some BJP cadre or voters could have become overconfident because of this Mission 400 slogan. And on the other hand, some opposition voters could see this election as a done deal. So why go out and vote? And also in states like Rajasthan and Western Uttar Pradesh, there has been some discontent among Jat community as well as the Rajputs. And this could have led to some amount of lower turnout in these states. So it's a combination of factors, seat by seat, state by state, and as you mentioned, it is very difficult to establish any electoral trend or an outcome on this, because from 1957 to 2019, 16 elections,
right.
10 elections voter turnout has increased, 6 times the incumbent has won, and of the 6 times the voter turnout declined, only 2 times the incumbents have come back.
Right.
So it's a very complex relationship.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned, it's on both sides. It's not just one star candidate or star campaigner that we can sort of hold responsible for lower voter turnout. Neerja Chaudhary is also with us. But going across to our reporters first, Sam Daniel is joining us from Chennai. Sam, decode these figures for us. Of course, speaking of Thoothukudi, very interesting. Kanimori, one of the star campaigners of the BJP, a high-profile constituency, Thoothukudi, significantly lower polling there as well. What do you see as the reasons behind this?
Well, from the common man's perspective, Vedant, 3 reasons. One is the heat wave conditions across Tamil Nadu. That could be one factor. Second one, apathy, particularly among the younger first-time voters. For example, many, even on camera, said in Chennai that they have planned to go on a vacation to Puducherry and chill out there. And thirdly, politically, they say that dip or a status quo means there is neither a pro-wave or an anti-wave.
Yes.
And that could be the political reason for that. For specific situations like Thoothukudi, Kanimoli seeks a second term, and the DMK sources say they're quite confident in such seats that since they have a formidable alliance, their alliance arithmetic should work, and they are quite confident that they'll be able to win. But from the BJP's point of view, for example, in Coimbatore, it has seen a marginal rise in vote share or voter turnout from 63.9% in 2019 to 64.8%, nearly 1%.
Yes.
Now the BJP says it's a clear indication that many have come out additionally to help the BJP or to vote for the BJP. But both the AIADMK and the DMK say not really. It's a bastion for us. Both the AIADMK and DMK say we have a strong base there. And this additional 1% or nearly 1% vote share or turnout is only an indication that people have taken that extra measure to keep the BJP away. So is it going to be advantage the ruling DMK, or is it going to be advantage for BJP in Coimbatore? That's something we'll have to wait and watch. But this is how local people and the political parties look at these difference in voter turnout, particularly a slight dip compared to 2019.
Sam, thanks very much for decoding that for us. Tanish Punjabi is live with us as well. He's joining us from Lucknow. Muzaffarnagar, Tanishq, is a very interesting seat. And, looking at Western UP, if you speak to locals there and political pundits, they would say, Chunav dikh nahi raha hai. Do you think that the RLD-BJP alliance, how is that playing out on the ground? Do you see some sort of disillusionment among Karyakartas who have worked for the past 5 years and then sort of, this alliance has cropped up? Do you think that has caused some amount of disillusionment?
Well, Vedant, first let us talk about the whole dip in the vote share, in the voter turnout. I'm sorry. So, talking about this could be, of course, for several reasons. One that has already been mentioned, that the weather could play a very important role because it is very hot outside, and it's very hot outside. But we cannot of course ignore the political importance of this, cause this could definitely impact the ruling party. Now, low voter turnout it is definitely a concern for the ruling party, because it could be seen as less enthusiasm in the pro-incumbent voters. Now, coming to the very important political constituency of Muzaffarnagar in the western part of Uttar Pradesh, it is from Samajwadi Party or from the India bloc. It was Harinder Malik and Sanjeev Balyan who won the last time also from the NDA. Now, NDA specifically because RLD and the BJP are in alliance this time. So, one of course factor was, while the booth-wise data is not out yet, it will be out in some time, and we could have a clearer picture. But there was low voter turnout was seen, especially in the booths in the Hindu-dominated areas, and there was high voter turnout in the Muslim-dominated areas. So, of course, this could be a sign of worry for the BJP. Only talking about the Muzaffarnagar constituency.
Right.
Now, since RLD coming together with the BJP, these are of course complex things. We have to wait and watch and see whether or not RLD voters went with the BJP candidate, or were they upset about both of them coming in alliance. Yes.
Right, Tanishq. In fact, there was a lot of discussion around Sanjeev Balyan and Jayant Chaudhary's joint campaigning also, but a significant drop in polling there in Muzaffarnagar. Ratndeep Chaudhary is also with us. Thanks, Tanishq, for that. Ratndeep, Northeast is extremely complex, and particularly, seats like, seats in Manipur. But specifically talking about Arunachal West, Kiran Rijiju, star campaigner of the BJP, a union minister fielded by the party, still, a significant drop in polling, a drop by 8.4%.
Well, talking about Kiran Rijiju's seat, Arunachal West, remember he is a heavyweight union minister and he was up against another political stalwart, former Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister Nawam Tuki of the Congress. But if you look at Arunachal Pradesh for the past couple of years, BJP has only grown in strength. Remember, there was simultaneous assembly elections also held yesterday in Arunachal Pradesh, where there is a 60-member assembly, of which in 10 seats BJP had already won uncontested, including the seat of the Chief Minister Pema Khandu and his deputy Chauna Min. So therefore, perhaps in Kiran Rijiju's constituency as well, many of the opposition voters did not turn up. And also because many would see it as a foregone conclusion that the focus would be on the state polls, and already BJP has an edge. So therefore, when there is less competition, there is always a tendency of lesser turnout.
Yes.
Added to it is weather concerns. It has been raining in the northeast. In fact, I had to do this OB indoors because there's heavy rain outside. In fact, there were rain alerts as well. So therefore, weather had also played a part partly in Arunachal Pradesh in terms of the turnout. However, this turnout also does indicate that give perhaps an edge to the BJP in both the Lok Sabha seats of Arunachal Pradesh as well as for the 60-member assembly. But talking about turnout, if you look at the Jorhat constituency, there the turnout has increased, because there you see there is a tough competition between the sitting BJP MP Tapan Gogoi and Congress's Gaurav Gogoi. So where there is mobilization from both the opposition and the ruling combined, there is more turnout. Look at the Tripura, for that matter of fact. Out of this 102 seats which have gone to polls, West Tripura is one of the highest, over 81%. That is because of two reasons. Primarily because Tripura has an history of high turnout, and BJP has been mobilizing its workers there for a long time, and the opposition there is not down and out.
Sure.
So therefore, there is more turnout. Same goes for the other seats in Assam. However, talking about Manipur, given the fact that it is just limping back from last year's ethnic strife, where so many people lost their lives, therefore the turnout has been less.
Right, Ratndeep, thanks very much for that comprehensive analysis. Thanks to all our reporters, Sam, Tanishq and Ratndeep there reporting from Guwahati. Thanks all very much for joining us on India Decides. Let me get in our guests now, Neerja Chaudhary and Amitabh Tiwari with us in studio. Neerja, going across to you first, is there no direct correlation between the kind of campaign blitz that we see on the ground and voter turnout? Because these seats that we're talking about, whether it's Coimbatore, whether it is Nagpur, even Dibrugarh for that matter, Chhindwara, very interesting, high voltage campaigning there. Does that not directly sort of, is that not directly proportional to the kind of polling that we see?
I think overall it's fair to say, from the reports that have come in from all over the country, there are exceptions of course, it has been what is called a Thanda election. Wherever you've gone, the word used is Thanda. Shant, low decibel. And one of the reasons forwarded was that it's a done deal. Therefore, and of course, clearly the BJP cadre was not proactive as it has been in the recent other election. So that part is certainly a factor. Now, it's said not like 2019 election where there was the Indo-Pak euphoria after Pulwama and the surgical strikes. It is also not like the 2014 election when UPA was a dirty word, Narendra Modi was on the rise, and there was, enthusiasm and fervor and, as I say, euphoria. Now, all that has been missing this time. Overall. Now, if you look at the VIP constituencies, there are only two you see where the voting percentage has increased. Normally, you associate, traditionally, when you decode elections, you associate increased voting percentage to a desire for change. I think it's very simplistic to say that, but I would say two constituencies, VIP constituencies, if you can point them out, one is Coimbatore of Annamalai, gone up by 1%, and Gaurav Gogoi in Assam in Jorhat also gone up. Now, I would, think there is significance, some significance, because it could be a desire for change in Jorhat.
Yes.
Could also be a desire to bring Annamalai. He's fought a very good battle. He's viewed very well. He's seen as a rising star of the future.
Yes.
That people may want to give him a chance and bring him to the Lok Sabha. It is perfectly possible. But overall, as I said, it would be simplistic. Take for instance Muzaffarnagar. I've been tracking some of the constituencies that I visited.
Yes.
Now, Muzaffarnagar, the news is it is down by almost 10%. The voting.
Yes, it is.
Now, I'm told in the Muslim booths, more details will come in the next 24, 36 hours. But in the Muslim booths, the voting was very high.
Right. That's an interesting point.
In Hindu areas, the voting was below 50%.
Right. So some
Therefore,
sort of
you get a
fatigue
certain
factor there. But
average.
ma'am, you made an
Now,
interesting
this is not a
point.
Hindu-Muslim election. But if the Muslims have voted en bloc,
Right.
then and it much will also depend on how the BSP candidate has voted and how much percentage of the vote he gets. He's a
Right.
Prajapati, the traditional vote base of the BJP.
Right. Muzaffarnagar
Now, if he
certainly
gets
is a very
less than
interesting
1
seat.
lakh,
In fact, I was speaking to a local political pundit and he said कि Muzaffarnagar seat फंसी हुई है. But you made an interesting point, ma'am, that many a times it's said that lower voter turnout is advantage the incumbent government. But Amitabh,
That also
Yes.
can be precisely what I'm saying. It's very simplistic to come to conclusion.
Yes.
It could be apathy. Okay, we're not very enthusiastic, but we are anyway going to vote for
Right.
them.
And
So as I
Amitabh,
said,
I was in fact in Alwar till yesterday, and after the voting percentages came out, both the Congress and as well as the BJP were disillusioned. Both of them were rather confused. Ki what do these numbers really mean? So there can be no fixed theory. Earlier it was said a lower voting percentage is advantage Congress. Sometimes it's said a lower voting percentage is advantage the incumbent government. So there's no theory that's completely reliable
right,
here.
absolutely.
Amitabh.
You need more details.
Yes.
Yeah, there is no theory, of course, but like Alwar and Bikaner, clearly two stalwart union ministers are contesting, and there has been a sharp decline in turnout, which indicates that the high margins of 2019 will not be repeated. Correct, because that's for sure, because the margins will not be there. And there is a discontent among Jats and Rajputs, and even the Adivasi community is confused because there is alliance with the Congress or not. There is an official Congress candidate, whereas the BAP has also put up a candidate. Urban apathy is for sure. If you see Tamil Nadu, I think one point to also add is that AIADMK voters are generally anti-DMK voters. Now, as Sam was saying, that if there is a rumor about an under the table deal between the DMK and the AIADMK to keep the BJP out, then what does the AIADMK voter do, who has been voting traditionally for the against the DMK and does not want to vote for the BJP? So it's a complex combination of many factors. Chhindwara you mentioned. Chhindwara last time the margin was just 37,000 votes.
Yes.
So if there is a high decline in turnout, which means ki seat phas gayi sort of. Correct. Yeah. Saharanpur is another example. Muslims generally tend to vote in higher numbers than the Hindu community. That's for sure if you see the historical pattern. But Muzaffarnagar, just to add one line, is that RLD has moved from India bloc to NDA, but has the Jat community moved from
That's a very important point.
RLD to NDA? That's a big question. That has created some confusion and some amount of discontent and a lower turnout perhaps.
That's a very important point that you raise. And Neerja, ma'am, would you like to weigh in on this? Because there are, alliances being formed left, right and center. But, many would point out that these are not natural alliances. So, when it's an unnatural alliance that sort of fights an election, there is no natural transfer of the electorate. There is no natural transfer of the ground worker, of the Karyakartas on the ground. In fact, it sort of, there's more disillusionment on the ground. So would you sort of attribute this to that fact as well, that many unnatural alliances are at play on both the sides?
No, that's absolutely correct. Has the RLD Jat voted? RLD Jat will stay by Jayant Chaudhary's side. 95% of them are expected to stay. The Jat is consolidated, but actually have they enthusiastically gone out and voted for Sanjeev Balyan, for instance.
Yeah.
or for others, in the western UP region. So I agree that the picture is much more complex than used to be the case in the past. And I think Chhindwara, for instance, drop in vote share, I would worry about. Because Chhindwara is a high-stake election.
Yes.
They are fighting to retain the primacy of that constituency. So apathy doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
For Kamal Nath and Nakul Nath's constituency. So I think I agree. More data one needs. It's a very, very complex picture.
Yes.
But this election has seen so many moves made by parties from one side to the other. Maharashtra
Exactly.
is a typical case. And we don't know how it's going to pan out.
That's a very important point again, and Amitabh, weigh in on that as well, because many voters, you speak to many urban voters perhaps, or many young voters, they say that we have to choose from different shades of the same color, that there is no credibility left, politicians are jumping ships every day. So perhaps do you think that's also a factor, and what do these numbers actually say about the larger picture of our democracy currently?
Yes, see, for many people, maybe first time voters, young voters, politics and politicians are dirty words, correct? So let's say, for example, Chennai. Now, Chennai has seen all forms of governments, Congress, DMK, AIADMK, all forms of governments. But still, whenever there is a rain in Chennai, there are floods. So people have seen all sorts of governments which have not been able to solve the basic issues, which, as you mentioned, the key word, credibility, trust, which has led to a trust deficit, that these governments either are not capable or do not have the political will to solve basic issues of people, which has led to cynicism, which has led to less participation from the young voters, that if we need to solve the problems ourselves, then probably why do we need any sort of a government? And if RWAs and the people themselves have to venture out and fend on their own, then probably that has what has led to this sort of a turnout decline. But it is very alarming, because Election Commission, radio channels, NDTV itself, star influencers, personalities have been canvassing an awareness campaign. This is the first time in the last 3 or 4th election that the turnout has declined. So despite all this, if the turnout declines by 4 to 5%, I think it is a cause of concern, and parties will need to change the strategy going forward, because it has made everybody confused, as you're saying.
Right.
Everybody is claiming that they know the trick, but it has led to a suspense which will lead parties and candidates to rethink on this strategy.
And perhaps more exciting, it makes the job more exciting for all of us. But before I give the last word to Neerja ma'am, very quickly, Amitabh, the sense that we got on the ground from voters is that perhaps many of them didn't know what they're voting for. Perhaps there are times when, if you look at the 2019 elections, even the state assembly elections, Badlav was a key word. Or perhaps, coming out in support of an incumbent, of a strong incumbent, was the other sort of alternative. But right now, because, Badlav to what? Because perhaps the opposition also has not been able to articulate that message of moving from the incumbent to another alternative.
Yeah, so those who wish for change, let's say,
exactly,
do not see hope in the opposition, or have not seen a very sustained sort of campaign from the opposition on key issues like probably unemployment, price rise, etc. They have been going all around on issues like caste census and crony capitalism, etc.
Yes.
So they do not see a viable alternative. So that could have led some people to just stay back home, and that leads to a double whammy for the opposition, because the state of the BJP, wherein they have 50% plus vote share in so many states, in 200 plus seats, if you need to win, you need to snatch voters from BJP to your fold. So if they just stay home and do not vote for the opposition, that does not work.
Absolutely. Important point there. And Neerja ma'am, the last word to you. Do you think there's a disconnect between New Delhi and India? And I don't just mean the high commands, but also the media, because in the past couple of elections, as senior journalist yourself, do you think the media also has been getting so many elections wrong? I mean, we didn't anticipate the extent of the BJP's win in Madhya Pradesh, which is why NDTV hasn't done exit polls for such a long time, and we sort of do poll of polls. But do you think that disconnect between New Delhi and India is what is what these numbers are a reflection of, perhaps?
Yeah, we often say sitting in Delhi, you really have no idea about what's going on in the rest of the country. That is a given. As a media person, I really feel that we sit here and discuss, but we have no idea. And it's a very different picture when you go into the field. But I think it would be fair to say that given what we picked up, this is not a wave election.
Yes.
This doesn't mean that the BJP will not come back to power. This doesn't mean that the DMK may not get the maximum number of Lok Sabha seats from Tamil Nadu. But it is not it is certainly different from 2019 and 2014.
Absolutely.
In what way different, we will soon find out as we, get into the, further phases and more data and detail gets back to us. But I think it is a much more complex election that perhaps we have seen, and it may be in some areas local issues have come to the fore much more than in the past, and it's become Modi versus local.
Yes.
In some areas, whereas in 2019 and 14, the Modi fervor was able to subsume the local issues.
That I think is very well put there, Nijam. Thanks very much, Amitabh and Nijam, for joining us on India Decides Tonight. But I mean, of course, let's not write it off so soon. There are 6 phases left, and the message right now is, of course, for youngsters, first-time voters, and everybody indeed to get out and vote. That's all the time that we have on India Decides Tonight. From all of us here, goodbye.